We'll go with the one with the eyes open here, Car Noir, and we'll open that up in Camera Raw. So this is the image opened up here in Camera Raw. I've got the shadow warning on here. It shows me in blue the areas of the image that have gone into deep black. Which means that there's no detail in there. So if I was to sort of print that up, that would come out as a solid black. We can move the slider here for the shadows there just to get rid of that blue. Just move the shadows to the right there just to get you sort of seeing a little bit of detail coming back in because we've shot in RAW to retain that detail, and it gives us a stop either way. We're just going to drag the sliders for the highlights and the whites just down. Add a tiny little bit of contrast in, a tiny bit of exposure just to give it a little bit of punch as well there. And just a tiny bit of clarity, and we can now just open that into Photoshop. So here's our image in Photoshop all loaded up, and the first thing we're going to be looking at, the background we've used is just a normal wall, but there's some marks on the background that can be sort of tidied up just very quickly. Very simple way to do that, just grab your patch tool, circle around all of the areas, this line here going all the way down, just a little dot at the back here as well. Just want to tone down the ear just a little bit. I think here, go into adjustments and selective colour. So if I work in the reds here, and just start to bring down the magenta in reds, can you see there? So take all of the magenta out, all of the red tones in the picture. We'll go into the magentas as well, just to knock out any little pinks there. Just takes out a little bit of the colour and just brings the tonality of everything in there together. Just at the top here, grab our clone tool this time, and we're going to reduce the opacity down to around about 28% now. We're going to clone from the area here where the makeup is in there, and we're just going to start to brush, clone that in again at the same opacity, and just brush it all in together. It's going to blend in just this little corner just here. There we go. I'm just going to go to the layers panel here, just going to bring that across so we can see that here. And we're just going to add a layer called levels. Go into the levels here. So what we can do here is we can drag this slider all the way across. And we can start to see the areas that are really in shadow there. We'll switch to our background layer while that levels tab is. We've got lots of nice hair here that's been sort of highlighted. We're just going to clone some of the detail from that hair in there, and just there, and then just there. So if we just delete the levels tab now, we can just get rid of that. Come in here, this tiny little hair here, just coming out, just needs removing, just because it's sticking out from everywhere else. So we're just going to grab that and use that there. Where the edge of it there isn't quite perfect, we can grab a little bit of hair, just from sort of over here, to sort of blend it all in together there like that. Now I really want to shape and contour the face around here, and I do this quite abruptly. I'm just going to Control J, copy the layer, just so I've got I'm working on a second layer above, so I can always go back to the original layer if I wish. I'm going to grab my burn tool, and I'm going to be working on mid-tones only and an exposure of about 26% with a nice soft brush. And what I want to do is I want to really try and start to contour in where the cheekbones are, and just start to darken that down just a little bit. Tiny little bit underneath the jawline as well, gives us a nice strong jawline. Doesn't need to be too much. Then we're going to go back into it, grab our dodge tool, and we're going to be working on mid-tones again on this one. Because although it looks white on this, it's actually sort of mid-grey. We don't want to affect the shadow areas, we just want to be affecting the lighter areas to really give us tone and shade. Now if we switch it to highlights and brush it across the glittery makeup here, just the lighter particles will lighten up, and the darker areas should stay dark. So it won't lighten everything up, it will just give us contrast between the glitter and the shadow. And again, if we go into the burn tool and select shadows only, and we can brush across, it will just darken down the black areas, not the light areas. It's just giving us that tiny little bit of punch there. Go back into the dodge tool. Perfect. Just going to recrop the image just very, very quickly. I'm always looking at points where images come out from corners. So we're just going to crop down here to where the shoulder sort of really comes out of the corner on this bottom left in here. And then we can use our guide here. You can see here that I'm working with this point almost exactly where the eye is. So you're naturally drawn into that area of the picture. I'm going to start to work with the hair a little bit. Get my dodge tool on highlights only, so it's only working in the highlights of the hair. And we're just going to brush across there just to give that a little bit of a lift. this little tufty here. I'm just going to try and lose that. We're going to try this on the patch tool with content aware and just see what happens. So we're going to circle the area that we want to lose, drag it to an area that we want to sort of copy. The content aware gives us a really clean cut in there. Because I'm just going to grab the burn tool. I'm just going to start to burn around the edge here where the image has gone really dark. And I really want to start to, there we go, so that area there is going into pitch black, which gives a really strong contour in there. Again, just a little brush up on the cheek there. Make sure the makeup at the top is fine. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's all good. Just in here, these tiny little eyelashes here, just on the other side, just want to lose those. So I'm just going to get my clone tool. There's that area there. Patch tool again just gives us that texture back. There we go. And that's now a nice clean line. What we can do here now is we can bring up our color balance, start working in the shadows. If we start adding blue to the shadow area like this, a bit of cyan to the shadow area there as well. And if we start looking at the highlights, we can potentially go the other way, add a little bit of magenta into the highlights, a little bit of blue into the highlights. Gives it this kind of blue, steely kind of look to the image. And just experiment with what you think works best for you. And then if you really want to draw your viewer's eye into the picture, you can use the iris blur tool. So we just go into filter, blur, gallery, and iris blur, which is there. And with this tool, you can make this shape anything from sort of like a soft rectangle to a perfect circle. We're going to go sort of reasonably circular on it. Pinch it from the square at the top here to sort of change the shape. These pinpoints here will help change the size of the circle. These pinpoints here will give you the transition. So whether it's a soft transition where it gradually sort of blurs into the image, or whether it's a really sharp one where the blur sort of suddenly happens at the edge of the image there. And then this dial in the middle will tell you how much you're blurring and how much you're not blurring. You don't want to blur too much, just give it just a little bit of a blur on the edge. Really drag the viewer's eye into the middle of the image there, which is where we're looking at. We want, always with portraits, I think, you want your viewer to be looking at the eyes of the portrait. Again, it's been carried out on a layer over the top, so if I think it's gone too much in here, then it's just a case going in, taking our history tool and the history brush, you can just brush away and some of that sharpness in the neck and come back. But there we go. So this is how we take an image that's pretty raw, rough and ready out of camera that looks like this, and we managed to transfer it into an image that looks like that. Just a few little bits of attention to detail, just a few of the things that I'll look for when I'm sort of trying to process a portrait to make it look as perfect as I possibly can.